Hello everyone, I know it's crazy and Charlie hasn't posted a video. Maybe y'all think something happened. Just letting you know Charlie is okay. Just she's gotten busy with school. Yeah, no, Charlie's finally heading to the big leagues, college. It is also almost the day of our game's birthday. Happy birthday us. Make sure on August 8th to say happy birthday to me, Bonnie Chica, and good old Foxy too. We'd appreciate it a lot. Now further ado, let's begin. I'll be reading a story from the good old days of our fandom. Hope y'all enjoy. It was a late Saturday night. I wasn't in the best mood as I had to babysit my little 8-year-old cousin Alex that night. My mom and dad are going out with my aunt and uncle and they needed a babysitter. So of course I was put on a roll. My dad offered to add $30 to my pocket money if I take Alex to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. I postponed watching a movie with my friends because getting $30 by watching animatronics entertain kids, that sounds like a good idea, but worth a shot. My dad gave me $80 for the food and games. I prefer to pocket the change. My aunt and uncle dropped Alex at the house. I tried talking to him, but I didn't expect much. Alex seemed really happy about it. I always remembered having a phobia of one of those singing animatronics. I never seen this place. I thought it was like Chuck E. Cheese. I knew this place had a bad history, and it will be closed by the end of the year. We got there around 8:51 a.m. The last show of the night started and I got us a pizza. It tastes no good than a Chuck E. Cheese, which honestly is a lie and the author of this story needs to change that bit, but overall pretty good start. I didn't expect much more though. The atmosphere seemed a little outdated, like something that would fit in the early 90s. The place wasn't particularly nice or clean, but it was still very popular, which made me wonder what could have happened to me could have to close by the end of the year. While eating, there was suddenly a loud drum roll followed by a voice introducing the characters. The kids all cheered as the curtains opened up, revealing the three animatronic singers, Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica. I was shocked. These animatronics looked old and a lot less detailed than I was expecting. They looked creepy as they sang their first song. Alex, along with all the other kids, seemed to be enjoying it. Even most of the parents seemed to be smiling and having a nice time, but I just stared with a blank expression on my face. The animatronics movements were pretty smooth and impressive, though I guess they made up for the looks. After they finished their first song, the chicken in the back, Chica, I swear, turned his head and looked straight at me. It wasn't by chance. Its eyes were fixed right on me, stared back, a little freaked out. Ram to make eye contact like this, but for how long? It was staring at me for at least 30 seconds. Both the other animatronics were turning their heads and eyes to look at the whole crowd, but not Chica. It wasn't until the next song started that Chica finally started moving its head again. I felt a bit relieved, considering maybe I was just being a little paranoid, letting my childhood fear of animatronics get the better of me at. Suddenly I heard Alex call my name. I had to turn around. Now it's okay. I thought there was no way the animatronics were still looking at me after leaving my seat. I turned around to look at Alex. When I saw at the corner of my eye and the two heads staring at me, I dropped my cup of soda on the floor out of it. Shocked, an employee came over and asked me if I was alright. I asked him why the hell the two animatronics were staring at me. Just as I was saying this, I heard Freddy on stage say it was time for intermission. I turned my head to look at the stage and the curtains were already closing. The employee explained to me that the animatronics were designed to make eye contact with people before he walked off. I could tell he hadn't taken me seriously. At least the curtains were closed and I couldn't see them anymore, but still, I just couldn't forget how they looked at me. They stared directly at me. But the way they stared at me, it didn't feel happy or friendly. It felt evil. I asked Alex if he was ready to leave because I wanted to get the hell out of that place. He told me he wanted to see the rest of the show and play some arcade games. He asked me for my cell phone, telling me that he had to tell his mom something. I handed him my phone and he walked off to the arcade games. As he walked off, I noticed another mini stage away from the main stage. It was called Pirates Cove. The stage had the curtain closed and a tiny sign out front that read out of order. I asked and why it was closed. He told me that the animatronic that lives on the stage named Foxy had a technical malfunction in 1987, causing it to bite out a child's frontal lobe. Hearing this news, I realized why this place had a troubled history and why it was closing. It shocked me that if such a horrific accident like this happened, how this place managed to stay open all this time. I was starting to feel uncomfortable staying in that place. I wanted to leave as soon as possible, but I knew Alex was having a good time. I saw him playing some arcade games. I sat back down and just waited. I just wanted the show to end as soon as possible so we can leave. About 5 minutes passed until the intermission was over and the curtains were opening back up. We'll have the kids that have gotten up to play games didn't return to the show, or I couldn't really blame them. I never found animatronics entertaining when I was younger. Either Alex didn't come back either. I know I should have probably just gotten away from the stage and played the games with Alex, but part of me was curious. I needed to know, I needed to see what was going on, and if these things would still stare directly at me with their evil plastic eyes. Freddy and Bonnie made jokes and interacted with the kids in the audience of it before starting their third song. It was interesting, though most animatronics were attached to the floor, only able to move from the torso up, but these guys, their legs seemed to have free movement, allowing Freddy and his friends to walk across the stage. It was incredible and terrifying. The third song ended and I was ready for them to look at me. Nothing foreign robots made jokes and interacted with the kids, none of them even turning their heads in my direction. I felt a weird mix of feelings, relief and discontentment. Why was I anticipating it? Why did I want them to stare at me? The last song went by fast because of all my thoughts. As it ended, the three friends started to say their farewells to the children. At this point, I was convinced that they weren't going to stare at me anymore, and that maybe the worker was right. Maybe they were set to make eye contact with people. It was almost 9 o'clock, which meant that the place was getting ready to close. Most of the parents and kids started to head for the doors. Alex came to me and told me he had to go to the bathroom. The public men's room had an out of order sign on it. I asked an employee where he could use the bathroom, and she said that he could use the C employee restroom. The employee had pointed Alex to the bathroom. There was an announcement that the place was now closed. I waited for a few more minutes. It seemed that I was the last person there. Even most of the employees had left. I stood there growing impatient until I noticed something at the corner of my eye. It couldn't be. I turned my head to see that all three of them were looking at me, the same ominous stare. I felt like my heart sank into my stomach, like I couldn't chalk out the words to call for an employee. It's time to get the fuck out of there. I stormed down the hallway quickly, bursting to the employee restroom. I called for Alex. He didn't respond. I looked under the stalls to see if anybody was in them, and I saw Alex's shoes. I immediately felt relieved and stood by the door waiting. I waited for what felt like another 5 minutes. I didn't want to say anything to make him feel awkward, but I asked if he was almost done in there because the place was closed, but he didn't respond. I started to become curious because I'd been staying in there for a long time and he hadn't made a single sound. I walked up to the store and knocked. As I knocked, the stall door creaked open to reveal nothing but Alex's shoe. She wasn't in there. I heard it come from outside the bathroom. It was a huge bang, sounded like some kind of door closing. I ran out of the bathroom to find that the main lights had been turned out, with the only source of light being the dimly lit night lights. I made my way back to the lobby, or at least what I would call the lobby in this place. I screamed for Alex and I screamed for help, but to no avail. This is insane. I thought, what kind of place completely shuts down in such a rush like this? Probably only 10 after 9. I ran to the entrance thinking maybe Alex was waiting outside, only to realize that I was right there. Was a giant metal door blocking the entrance. I didn't know what to think of this. I didn't know how to react. I was trapped in this place. Wow, would a place like this have a giant metal door like that? What were they trying to keep out? I had to call my parents or the police or someone. Alex was missing and I was trapped in there. I reached into my pocket for my phone, empty. I remember that I had given it to Alex. I tried to calm myself down. I can't be the only person in the building, I thought to myself, and there had to be a phone somewhere in the building. I walked down every hallway I could find looking for a phone and occasionally shouting for somebody. The only phone I found so far was disconnected. If it weren't for the fact that Alex was by himself on a Saturday night, I wouldn't have been in such a panic. What the fuck happened to him? Why were his shoes in the stall? What if somebody had taken him? I had to call the police, but there was no fucking phone. I walked down another hallway, finding a door I hadn't checked yet that had a staff-only sign. I opened the door, only to discover a room full of animatronic body parts. The room smelled foul. Something was rotting in there, and I was standing in some kind of thick liquid substance. I got it out of that room as quickly as I entered. Seeing those animatronic parts made me think that maybe Alex was sitting in the dining area waiting. The dining area was right outside the hall I was in, so I thought I might have well checked. Navigating the barely lit building was pretty difficult, but also creepy. When I got to the dining area, I called for Alex, but there was no response. Suddenly, I noticed something through the corner of my eye. I could see, but the curtains on the stage had been opened again. I could have sworn they'd been shut after the show. I didn't want to turn my head in fear of what I was expecting to see, but before I could give myself more time to think, I turned my head to the stage to see Shika and Freddy on the stage. There was a third one. I knew there was a third one. The bunny was missing. Where was the bunny? I was able to make out in the dark the heads of the two animatronics facing me. They ran out of there as quickly as I could back into the dark hallways. I stopped to catch my breath, but I heard something coming down from the hall. There were footsteps coming my way. I was saved. Somebody was there. I ran closer to the source of the footsteps, yelling for help. As I got closer, I slowed down, noticing that the footsteps were very heavy, unnaturally heavy for a human being. I Stopped thinking something wasn't right. The flickering light ahead of me didn't provide enough light to see the source of the footsteps, yet as the footsteps got closer, unable to let out a scream, the robot started walking toward me, and at that instant, I ran to the nearest room, which happened to be a security room. I looked for anything to defend myself with. There were no weapons, but there was a button on the wall that seemed to be a door control. The footsteps were getting closer, almost outside the room. I ran to the wall and threw my fist onto the button, causing a giant door to close down to the floor. The robot banged on the door for a few seconds before the only noise was the buzzing sound of the dim fluorescent light in the room. How is this possible? How could these animatronic performers have the ability to roam freely? Why the hell was that thing following me? Things, are they alive? These nightmarish thoughts kept pouring into my mind that almost didn't even notice the heavy footsteps coming from the opposite direction. I turned around, realizing there was another opening to the room with an identical door switch. I immediately sprang to the door. Of her beak, these teeth were smaller and seemed human-like. She banged her hands on the glass, keeping eye contact with me. I shut the light. When I couldn't take the sight of the thing anymore, I sat in the chair in the middle of the room, pulled up like a baby. Can't be happening, I kept telling myself. Both robots reminded me of their presence. With constant knocking on the glass, I feared that they might break the glass. I didn't know what they were going to do to me if they got me, but I imagined the worst. I couldn't see anything through the glass, but I knew they were still there watching me. Wow. Looking around the room, I found a flashlight in one of the drawers, and on the desk I noticed the camera system, turned it on, and a bunch of screens turned on, surveilling probably every room in the building. I looked at screen displaying the show stage. Freddy the Bear was on the stage. Freddy. Into the camera, I looked at another screen that displayed the Pirate's Cove that I had seen earlier. There was an animatronic poking its head out of the curtains. I remembered that the employee told me that it was named Foxy, and why he was in disrepair, he was still turned on. Then I started to realize it didn't matter if they were turned on or not. These things were fucking alive, and they were evil. I could see the teeth in Foxy, and I knew that I didn't want to be anywhere near him, so I kept my eye on that camera to make sure he didn't move. I sat watching the camera for what felt like hours, and it probably was the tapping on the glass that stops, and the fox was still peeking its head out of its curtain. I had been so preoccupied with staring at the idle animatronic fox that I forgot to check any of the other cameras. I looked at the screen displaying the empty stage where Freddy was standing not too long ago. He was gone. Suddenly, all the camera screens filled with static. I was blinded from viewing anything in the building. I started to panic and looked around the room again for anything to help me. I found an old phone hidden behind a pile of papers. I picked it up to hear a dial tone. It was working. I immediately started to dial for my parents, but I realized it would be a better idea to call the police. I redialed for 911. There was no ringing sound, just silence from the phone. I hung it up to try again, but didn't even get a dial tone this time. The bastards must have interfered with the phone. I got up to take one last peek out of the glass to see if the coast was clear to run. I turned the light on at the left side to reveal the shadow of the bunny standing in the dark corner. He's blocking that exit. I turned the right side light on as well to reveal the chicken still looking straight at me through the glass. I shut both of the lights off. I was trapped in there. There was no way I would try to outrun them. I didn't know how fast they were. I sat down in the chair knowing my only option was to wait. I tried to rationalize the situation and calm myself down. Alex is 8. It's not like he's a toddler, I thought, and plus he has my cell phone. He probably already called his or my parents, and I'm sure they're all on their way here now. I convinced myself. I checked my watch. It was almost 12 already. The cameras were still filled with static, and I was unable to do anything at that point. All I could do was shut my eyes and wait. I shut my eyes thinking that everything would be fine. Come morning time, I still don't know how, but I had actually fallen asleep from closing my eyes for a while. I didn't think falling asleep in this kind of situation was possible, like your body would be in fight or flight mode, your adrenaline would be rushing, your body just wouldn't let you fall asleep, but somehow I did. I walked to the sickening sound of familiar banging on the glass. It wasn't just a dream. I was still in that godforsaken place. I checked my watch and saw that it was 4 a.m. I had been asleep for 4 hours. I noticed that the light in the room was a lot dimmer, almost to the point where I couldn't even see the papers that were hanging on the wall anymore. The thumping was coming from the right side. I didn't even turn on the light because I didn't want to see that sickening face of that thing again. Suddenly the light flickered. I knew the power dying at the time like this would be deadly because these doors seemed to be powered by the electricity. I made a plan to run as fast as I could through the left door. If the power went out, it was the only choice I had. The hall, I had to act quickly, but I didn't know what to do. I looked around me and found a door. I didn't care what room it led to. I just had to get out of the hallway. The footsteps were getting closer. I shut the flashlight and managed to reach the doorknob. Pushing the door open, crawled into the room and pulled the door shut as quickly and quietly as I could. I waited in the darkness as the Footsteps came closer and closer until they were right outside the door, and then it stopped. Whatever it was right outside the door. I put my hand over my mouth to muffle my breathing and leaned against the door to block it in case the thing tried to get in it. It was probably about 10 seconds, but it felt like a minute before the sound of pots and pans banging around echoed across the building and I heard footsteps move away from the door. I felt that it was safe to no longer hold my breath, and to turn the flashlight on. The light revealed that I had been sitting in a supply closet. I looked around for any kind of weapon. To my luck, I found the crowbar sitting on a ledge. This was seemingly the perfect weapon to bash a robot in the face with. I waited about a minute till I thought the coast was clear. I slowly opened the door and crawled out of the room. My knee wasn't hurting too bad anymore, but I didn't want to take the chance of putting pressure on it. Crawling was quieter anyway. As I crawled through the pitch black hallways, banging into walls, I noticed that almost all the floors in these hallways were sticky. The stickiness caused my skin to make a peeling sound off the floor. Each time I lifted my hands or legs, I didn't think too deep into the stickiness or anything for that matter. I was too focused on getting out of there and finding Alex. As I crawled down the hole, I noticed moonlight shining in through a window in a room up ahead. I hoped the window would be low enough and big enough for me to reach and fit through. I crawled to the doorway, but the sight of two big long eyes stopped me. The eyes were fixed on mine. Even in the dark, I turned on the flashlight and shined it at the figure. It was Foxy. He looks like a broken, unfinished animatronic with pieces missing altogether. His legs didn't even seem to be finished, as his robotic legs were not covered up by plastic fur, and his feet were just two pieces of metal. He raised his hook hand and started moving quickly towards me. I managed to get up on my feet. Ignoring the pain on my knee, I held up the crowbar ready to swing like a baseball bat. As soon as the robot got close enough, I swung the crowbar to hit his robotic leg, causing him to fall to the floor. I took this opportunity to smash his robotic hat numerous times with the crowbar, causing gears to fly out of its face. The eyes were still glowing, fixed on me, but his legs seemed broken, and that was enough to stop him from getting me. I hopped closer to the window. The other robots no doubt heard what just happened, so I'd hurry. I reached the window. Luck was on my side because the window is reachable and big enough to squeeze through. I swung the crowbar at the window, but it didn't break. I suddenly heard many pairs of footsteps coming from down the hole. This is swung the crowbar again. The window cracked but didn't break. The footsteps were right outside the room. Now swung the crowbar one more time, as hard as I could, finally causing the glass to shatter it. I took a painful leap off both legs to reach the window. I pulled myself up and was about to jump out the window until something grabbed my leg. I turned around to see Freddy Fazbear standing behind me, holding on to my good leg, along with Chica and Bonnie standing behind him. Asked Freddy. Without thinking, I pulled my leg up, causing pain in my knee, and kicked it back with full force into the animatronic's head. This caused it to lunge back a bit and loosen its grip on, giving me just enough time to jump out of the window. I didn't care about the returning pain to my knee. I hopped away from the building as fast as I could, with the only sound I heard being the screaming of the robots to come back. I screamed Alex's name at the top of my lungs 3 or 4 times. Before getting in my car and speeding to my house, I called the cops and explained the whole situation. I then called my parents. Afterwards, my mother picked up the phone after calling 3 times asking why I was calling so late. She screamed into the phone begging me to tell her it was a joke. When I told her I lost Alex, when the cops arrived, I showed them a picture of Alex and explained to them about the robots. I told them that the robots must have been somehow programmed to kill any intruders at night. I tried to make it seem as realistic as possible. They looked at each other like I was crazy, like anyone would. However, they assured me that they would have the police department look into it. After investigating, the police found nothing. No blood, no broken glass, no foul smells, no Alex, and all the animatronics were in their proper places. It's been almost a month. Alex was never found. My aunts and uncles still cry their eyes out every day. My parents don't even talk to me, but what kills me the most is knowing the evils that are inside of that place, that family-oriented place, and that even if I told anyone what happened, they would think I'm crazy. I can't prove what happened to Alex, but I know that whatever happened to him, those fucking robots had everything to do with it. I really hope you enjoyed this. This was your old pal Freddy Fazbear, and if you did like this video, then please like and sub. It would help Charlie bring more content for you. Alright, gotta go scare the guard now. Toodles!